Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Diary of a Stock Trader. And every episode I lead with Dear Diary, pretty much what have we learned this week? But today is special because today is Sunday. And on Sundays, we try to lean into parables that were taught in the Bible in ancient times to give lessons. And in this particular podcast, in this particular episode, this is really one of the greatest stories, one of the greatest investment stories ever told. And that is the parables of the talents. And so I'm going to just kind of recap the story. And many of you know it. And in general, when the master leaves his house, he awards or rewards three of his servants. The first one he gave 5 talents to, I believe, and I'll check. The second one, I believe, was 2 talents, and the third was 1 talent. And the story is about what the servant did with the money. So we'll kind of recap and make sure I got the story straight. It says, before leaving, the master gives each servant a portion of his wealth known as talents. It's an ancient measure of money equivalent to many years of wages. The first receives 5 talents. The second receives 2 talents, and the third receives 1 talent. And you know what, guys? That is very much like the world we live in today. You are rewarded for what you have gotten done. And the sad part is, I guess, for many, is that most haven't done a whole lot with their lives. So they fall into the camp of being awarded or rewarded the 1 talent. But yet, as they move through their lives, you find that there's a lot of complaining about the state of their life. And they need only to look in the mirror to find that what they have been given, they haven't done a lot with. And so you're always asking, and I'm always asking, what have I done with the life that God has given me? And that is a question you should be asking yourself as well. So back to the story. Investments. The first 2 servants immediately put the money to work, trading and successfully doubling their amounts. The third servant, out of fear and mistrust of the master, digs a hole and buries his single talent. Upon returning, the master asks for an accounting. He praises the first 2 servants as good and faithful and rewards them with greater responsibilities. However, he harshly condemns the third servant as wicked and lazy, strips him of his 1 talent, and casts him out. Now, I'm sure in this parable, there is a message about belief and faith and those who believe in Christ, that he is the chosen one, the Son of God, they will be rewarded. And those who do not, and there's this mistrust of the narrative and your disbelief of what you have been told or what you have been given in the sense of knowledge. Hey, do you understand the truth when you hear it? It's a whole nother story for a whole nother day, because this is not a religious podcast, if you will, but there's a story there. So the third servant gets stripped of his 1 talent and he is casted out. So the story illustrates that everything we have is a gift, and we are accountable for how we manage and how we grow our resources. Not only gifts of time, but gifts of abilities, gifts of knowledge, gifts of life, gifts of health, and how we even manage our own families. When I think of the gifts that I've been blessed with and the stewardship that I am, along with my wife, responsible for the family, it is important that I remember that my children, while they are mine, at the end of the day, they simply belong to God as I do. You know, humans were made in the image of God, and eventually you will return to answer for everything that we did or did not do. Back to the lesson. So, the failure of the third servant represents a lack of faith. His fear of making a mistake paralyzed him and prevented him from taking any action. The reward for effort for the first two servants, regardless of how much they started with, they received the exact same praise and the reward for their faithfulness and their effort. So, how does all of that fit into really investing present day and the philosophy, the school of thought? And while I touched on some of it, I kind of want to recap a few things. And so, today's world, you know, if you only have $500 or you only have $2,000, some may say, hey, I will do good things with that money. You know, you guys may recall, or you may have seen my own personal testimony, my own personal story, is where I took literally $477, added about $4,500 to it, and I was responsible, finally, with that money and grew it to a lot of money. And, you know, having that money, I did not blow the money. I was a good steward with the gifts and the blessings that God had given me. So I went from a 1,400 square foot old home in ill repair to a almost 5,000 square foot home, 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms that I paid cash for. So I took the talents, you know, the wages, the money, the blessing, and I immediately put it to work in the stock market, and finally had my head screwed on straight, was emotionally balanced. I was able to take that money and produce something so that hopefully the good Lord would say, well done, my good and faithful servant, like in the story of the parable of the talents. And so some people will say, they will, you know, eventually invest that money when they have more money. You know, every trader receives talents. Some receive time, knowledge. Some receive capital, discipline. Some just receive a really good opportunity, like COVID, unfortunately, for some folks. But the market was going down, and it was going down fast. And there was an opportunity to take your talent, your skill, the opportunity, some wages, some money, and to be able to put that money to work and do some good things with it. The question isn't how much money do you have? The question always is, what are you doing with it? Think about it. No matter what you have in life, no matter what God has given you, whether you've been blessed beyond measure or you've just been blessed in the moment a little bit, the question is, what will you do with what you have been given? And that's really, really important for you guys to ask yourselves. What am I doing with what I have been given? And so money should be used and moved and grown, not recklessly, productively. Cash hidden under the mattress never is a good thing, like the guy who buried his one talent in the earth because he mistrusted the master or God or the system or whatever that is for somebody, the government. He buried his one talent and didn't do anything with it. So again, real world, you know, say two people have $5,000. I'm looking at some of the notes. One buys liabilities. What would that be? A liability would be like buying a car that depreciates in asset in value. So obviously, we know we need a car to be able to go to and from work and to make life work for most of us. But if you're spending things on liabilities, things that are not assets, that can be a little bit of a problem. So generally, liabilities. And one buys assets 10 years later, the difference is not luck. The difference is in stewardship. You had 5,000, they had 5,000. You kind of blew your money, and they took care of their money and bought things and invested in things that would produce something more valuable in the future. The third servant traded from fear. Fear causes investors to sell too early. Fear causes investors to never buy, miss opportunities. They hold losers forever, meaning, you bought a stock that's horrible and it's down a bunch and you hold that thing for forever. They stay in cash during bull markets. Staying in cash means you're not putting the money to work in a bull market that is going up, where stocks are appreciating and appreciating and appreciating, but you are like, oh no, I'm staying in cash. I'm fearful. Guys, fear will make you do crazy things. I say it all the time. You cannot invest money in an emotional state, because if you do, fear, emotions will cause you to do things that are not rational. You will move money in an irrational state, and it will cloud your judgment. You've got to learn a system, a structured way of making money each week, a way with which you evaluate stocks, a way with which you qualify them, technically and fundamentally. And then you've got to enter and exit stocks in a very disciplined way that will produce the outcome that most of us want, which is a profitable outcome, because we're not here to gamble. We're not here to, treat your trading like it's a hobby. We're here to move money and treat things like it's a business. And so finally, God rewards multiplication, not perfection, not excuses, multiplication. God rewards things and people who are being fruitful, who are doing things in a way that creates abundance. The Lord does not want you to be broke and impoverished. He wants you to be one who flourishes, who's responsible, who's a good steward of what you have been given. Listen, the reality is all of us were dealt the hand we were dealt. In my life, my mom struggled, and she died at 58. My dad did 2 tours in Vietnam, eventually died here recently, a couple of years ago, through a lot of the complications from what he was exposed to, I would imagine, from Vietnam. But my mom and dad were divorced. I remember moving back to my hometown when I was 11, and I met my biological father then. It's a whole nother story. And my mother struggled, and we lived in a less than ideal, older apartment complex. But again, we were happy. We were just kind of, for the most part, just scraping by. But, I was able to have a foundation established within me by my dad and my mom. I knew right from wrong. There was, at least, 2 feet on the ground. I had something that I could lean on, and that was certainly my faith, knowing right from wrong, being a good person, doing the right things. And you kind of have this way with which you are going to move forward. But that was the hand that I was dealt. And it was a very up and down hand. And so when I turned 18, I joined the military for the GI Bill, which for those of you that don't know, is the college fund. But while I was in, I was awarded a 3-year active duty ROTC scholarship, got out, went into the military during the first Gulf War, was a young officer, and I began to learn how to invest money. And that was an up and down road as well over the years. And so I kept moving the ball forward. I kept trying. I kept, increasing my knowledge. I kept trying to do all of the things that would eventually raise my skill set, raise my knowledge. And then when the opportunity arose, which in my case was COVID, I was able to finally marry skill with opportunity, with discipline, with some sort of goals and strategy and planning and a roadmap, and I just moved the ball forward. And so I always haven't done great with the life that God has given me. And so my goal is to try to do the things that will be pleasing in His sight each and every day. And obviously, as a sinful creature, that doesn't happen each and every day. But again, the goal is to take the talents that I was giving, the wages, the skills, the blessings, the way with which God made me, the things that I have learned over the course of many, many years. I try to take the talents, if you will, and do something good with them. Make them produce a better outcome for me and for my family that I'm responsible for, that I need to be a good steward over what I have been given. And so I will close with, again, don't be fearful. You're here. You've got one life to live as far as we know. Make the best of it. And so each and every week, my goal is to share with you something that will help you financially, whether it be a concept, a philosophy, a chart, a trading strategy, those things that will help you help yourself. And so the Diary of a Stock Trader is about, the journey of someone who is going through the process of trying to build wealth through strategy, through discipline, through systems, through structures. Build wealth that is more predictable by using discipline and a skill set and a repeatable process that will allow you to be able to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. So you're going to every day write some sort of chapter. If we're figuratively saying every day is a new page in your diary, what you want to do is make what you write, make your days count, make them count for something. So I hope you guys have a great upcoming week. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Please share it if you've got any value from it. My goal is to help a handful of people be better at what they do. I don't need millions and millions of followers. I need, someone to say, hey, along the way, along my journey, some of the things you said have helped me. And if I do that, I know I will have done something other than just help myself. We'll see you guys in the next episode.